Coming up today on That LTD Life, Straico is back. This is an AI chatbot that lets you use up to 4 models at once. That means you could have a prompt that generates content on ChatGPT, Claude, Llama, as well as Perplexity all at the same time, and then pick which one you think is the best output. That is really one of the strongest things that Straico does, but it's far from the only thing that Straico does. I'm going to show you all of the features in this video, but before we get into that, you do need to know that this is AppSumo's Deal of the Day. And what that means is there's only a short number of codes available at a very low price. So currently 150 codes available, but they're gonna go quickly. So definitely if you know already, like you've been waiting for Straico to come back, if you know you want it, pause the video. I've got a link in the description. Go over and grab it and then come back here and I'll show you how to use the tool. If you're not certain, definitely hang around and I'll show you around the tool so you can decide what's right for your business. Now, $59 is the lowest price point, but I actually recommend probably going all the way on this one if you're gonna go there at all. Let me explain. So here are the plans and pricing for the AppSumo lifetime deal. Now, this is a one-time payment, and then with that one-time payment, you get a certain number of coins to use every single month. So for $59 once, you get 5,000 coins every month. For $99 once, you get 10,000 coins every month. And for $149, just one-time payment, you get 40,000 coins per month. So if you do the math on this, the weight is so heavily pushed towards tier 3 that it's absolutely the best value, especially when it's only $90 between tier 1 and tier 3. If you can afford it, I definitely would recommend grabbing tier 3 if this is your sort of tool at all. Now, in my opinion, the way the deal is explained could be a little bit confusing because it looks like you're gonna get so much, like 126,000 monthly words, and then you also get 20,000 monthly words, and you also get 100,000 monthly words. Well, actually, the way that this system works is that it's based on how many coins you use. So if you were to generate 126,000 monthly words in GPT-4 Turbo, well, you'll have no credits left to do anything else. So it isn't quite as clear, but I think the reason for that is just limitations of AppSumo's deal page. Like their pricing tables aren't really meant to explain this sort of pricing system. So I'm going to jump over to the Straico billing page, which are based on the AppSumo lifetime deals, and they do a much better job because it does say the monthly coins can be used on and then up to all of the same limits that we just saw, but it explains what I just said. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I don't want any confusion out there when you hit the deal page and you redeem, and there could be disappointment involved. So let's eliminate that. All right, housekeeping aside, we are going to jump into learning how to use this tool. I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by AppSumo, so make sure you check my link in the description before you make a purchase. That way they know who sent you. It also helps out the channel so I can keep making these LTD reviews. All right, let's go ahead and check out this tool. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do if you're just doing a straight ahead, chatbot type of prompt is set up what models you want to use. Now, by default, they give us Claude 3 and GPT 3.5. These are a little bit dated, so we can update this right here with the little pencil icon. Now, you can choose up to 4 different models at once, but keep an eye over on this row because it's going to tell you how many credits are used per 100 words. And some of these models are quite spendy. So Opus here is 24 credits per 100 words. You also want to keep an eye on the features that are available. So most of them are just going to be chat, but every once in a while, it will accept images as an input. Or certain models like Perplexity here can also browse the web. Actually, this little light bulb over here also means that these models can browse the web. So if you know you need some real-time data, make sure you choose one of the correct models. Let's just say I wanted to choose the biggest and most popular model. So I went with something like Claude 3.5 Sonnet, ChatGPT 4o, Gemini Pro 1.5, and it might not be the most popular, but I'm going to choose Grok Beta, which is currently 5.3 credits per prompt. Now, if we add all of these together, it's going to be pretty spendy to use this configuration as my regular setup. But let's go ahead and try it out. I can choose select down here, but I want to point out there is another menu up here, which just gives you some information about the capability of the models that you chose. So GPT-4o is the only one that has a browsing capability, and it's not compatible with the other 3 models that I have chosen. I can turn on and off the ability to browse by just clicking right there. All right, I'm going to have browsing turned off for right now, so all of my models are on an even playing field, and we'll go ahead and continue. Now, how can we keep an eye on the actual coins that we're using? Well, as I type down here, you're going to see this little counter start to increase the longer my prompt is. Now, keep in mind that the output is also going to cost us coins. So it's not going to be just, a few credits up front. It's also the stuff that you receive. So I've just got a simple prompt here. It says, please help me write a thank you letter to my son's soccer coach for doing a great job this season. And you can see it's going to be 3.42 credits to send this message to all of these different models. Let's go ahead and submit it. Now, I want to point out that I could also attach a file here. I could use voice dictation if I didn't want to type it in. I can just use this little voice dictation icon here. And I could also turn on what they call smart mode. Smart mode is going to automatically enhance your prompt, so you don't have to worry about being too wordy or maybe grammatically accurate. You can just kind of, vomit your words right out onto the prompt here, and smart mode will correct it for you. All right, let's go ahead and submit this, find out what I can do. I am going to turn off smart mode. Let's go ahead and send it in. And now I can start to see the outputs coming in. Now, I currently have what they call split view on, and I'm currently viewing in this kind of grid layout, quad box type of setup. If I just want to see them all in a row, I can turn this off. And now I can use the little toggles up at the top to switch between the different models. But I kind of like the split view, right? It's nice. I can even put them all four in different columns and then very quickly maybe compare the start of each one of the outputs to say, oh, this one is off to a good start. I want to read it more. Or, this one's got a cringy opening. I don't think I want to deal with trying to edit that. Now, of course, I could share the prompt right now if I wanted to. Just go ahead and hit that share button. You can copy the link and then it will be available to anyone to see the chat up to this point. I could also delete the conversation if it's not going well. I could edit the name. Now the chats will live over here on the sidebar, so it might be helpful to actually keep track of what things are named. I can also clear the chat, which will get rid of everything, or I can hide the chat. All right, now that we got our output, I do want to point out that our total balance for this chat has gone up pretty considerably. We have now spent 47.88 coins, whereas the initial submission, I think, was right around 3. So the outputs here are definitely starting to use up some coins. We could cut this cost down dramatically by switching to just maybe one model or using some less expensive models. Like in this scenario, GPT-4o Mini would probably do a great job, and it's like a tenth of the amount of credits, right? It's 0.4 as compared to something like OpenAI's Mini, O1 Mini, excuse me, that is 4 credits. So yeah, definitely a lot cheaper on certain models. Now, maybe I want to start weeding out some of these outputs just because I know they're not going to work. Maybe I don't like GPT-4o. I can go ahead and just delete this one response, hit confirm, and there we go. Now I've only got 3 outputs in this chat. The next option over is to copy the markdown to your clipboard so you can use it in another application. And if I go even one further option over, I can convert the entire thing from text into speech. It's going to pop open this little window here. Basically, this is the same tool that you can access from anywhere inside of the interface right up here, except it's already copied the text in for you, just eliminating a single step. We're going to try out text to speech in just a moment here, so let's go ahead and give that a whirl. All right, I'm going to start a new chat just to kind of clear off the screen. We'll open up the text to speech, and now I can type anything that I want in this window and convert it to speech using one of their voices down here. There's 6 different voices. In my opinion, they're all pretty good sounding. There's a few that I prefer to others, but overall the quality is pretty good and it's very expressive and human-like. All right, so I've just pasted in some song lyrics here from the Beatles, and I'm going to try to run them through with a few different voices. We're going to start out with Aloe right here, who is a young male. And I got 2 options to choose from. I can choose standard output and high definition. Let's go with high definition. If you look at the cost difference, it's not that much. It's going to be 3.6 credits or 3.6 coins for the high definition versus 1.8. So it's twice as much, but we're not talking about a lot of coins here. All right, we're going to generate high definition. Here it goes. Doesn't take very long, by the way. It happens pretty darn quickly. There it is. That was real time. 12 seconds output. Definitely couldn't even speak it that fast. All right, let's listen to this.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel all right.
All right, so in my opinion, that was very expressive. In fact, when it read the second line, it had slightly different intonation than it did on the first line, which made it sound more poetic and more musical. So very nice job there, Aloe. All right, next we're going to try out Echo here. We won't go through all of the voices, but I'll do at least a few of each gender. All right, here is Echo.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel all right.
Once again, very nice. I think this one was slightly more repetitive in its intonation, but overall still very expressive and human-like. Even just a few years ago, I never would have imagined that this was a computer-generated voice. All right, now let's check out some of the females. Here is Nova, a young adult. We're gonna go to high definition and generate. Here's our output.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel all right.
Okay, so that one was fairly complex to me. I like the rhythm distinction between lines 2 and 3. Remember, I'm not giving it any guidance or coaching in terms of how to say things other than normal punctuation, but there is no punctuation at the end of these lines. So the way that it kind of smoothly went from line 2 to 3 was very impressive. However, I did not like the ending where it kind of ended on a weird tonation. It didn't really give any closure here when it said, will make me feel all right. So this is the type of thing where you could just generate it again until you got a result that you liked. All right, one more output here. We're gonna go with Shimmer just so we do 2 females and 2 males. Shimmer is also a young adult. There is, by the way, Onyx, which is mentioned as a senior. Otherwise, everyone kind of has a younger sounding voice. All right, we're gonna generate this one in high definition, generate, and we'll play back.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel all right.
Another kind of weird ending there where they put emphasis on feel, but then all right didn't have the closure to make it sound entirely human. The feel was really good, and then all right, make it what's gonna come next. So yeah, really, really nice. Overall, very good quality. Would love to have more control over how they say everything. And I don't know how they're gonna develop that user interface, but I'm glad to be alive during a time where I get to see it evolve. Because you know there's gonna be toggles and switches and buttons that are coming about to get our text-to-speech just right. All right, so we've seen prompting, we've seen the text-to-speech. There's also image generation, and you actually have 2 different ways to do this inside of Straico. The most obvious one is the little picture icon up here. This is gonna pop us over into Stable Diffusion. As you can tell, I've already been using the tool a little bit here. In fact, I generated some images there and they seem to be missing. But other than that, overall, it's gonna be a Stable Diffusion type of output. Now, if you're thinking that means that is low quality, well, you're thinking of Stable Diffusion from maybe a few years ago. Stable Diffusion's come a long way. It might not be absolutely cutting edge in terms of its quality and outputs, but it's still very, very impressive. So the way this works is you enter your prompt right in here, and if you're not sure of a prompt, you can just have it generate one right there. It's kind of like a random prompt generator. And then we can have negative prompts as well. So if there's certain topics you want to avoid or not have in your image, you can mention them there. Under Enhance, we can choose the style that we want. I'm gonna go with, how about cinematic? We'll choose that. Then we can upload a reference image if you've got a place you want to start from. And then finally, we just choose how many images we'd like to output. Oh, it looks like those were placeholders. All right, I did generate some other images, but maybe they're saved somewhere else. So once we choose the number of images we want to output, there is an advanced option down here where if you're already a Stable Diffusion expert, you might want to come hang out. But otherwise, I think the default settings are good for most people. I'm gonna go ahead and run this. Now notice it is going to cost me 40 coins. So image generation, a little bit more on the pricier side of things. I mean, still not that much, right? 40 coins, and even on tier 1, we get 5,000 per month. So definitely reasonable to generate a few images. Let's run this. It says generating dream. All right, here we go. We've got our output. Now, the prompt was a humongous teacup and saucer floating in the sky, surrounded by clouds and rainbows, abstract, surreal, dreamlike, stylized oil painting style, vivid colors, detailed, high resolution, wide angled, otherworldly, and fantastic. Now, that prompt was obviously created by their generator here, but if I look at it, it looks pretty good, right? I mean, it definitely is compelling, interesting visually. Doesn't necessarily immediately seem completely fake. It looks like it could be from a movie or something. Definitely has cinematic vibes, in my opinion. So that's the image generation using Stable Diffusion. But as I mentioned, there's another way to generate images inside of Straico. For this, we'll head over to the template section. We've not talked about templates yet, but they're actually very, very powerful. So in templates, I can actually go to image generation here, and I can generate images using DALL-E 3. And the way this works is you enter in your prompt here, choose the size you want to output. Let's go ahead and choose, how about landscape, and how many variations we want, 1 through 4. I'll do 2, and then we can go ahead and run this prompt. It inserts everything down here inside of the chat, and then I can go ahead and submit it. All right, now it's generating our image. And here we go. We've got our image generated from DALL-E. I can click on it and view it. I asked for it to be on a minimalist plate in a luxury apartment. I think it definitely did a good job of that. It's even got fancy beams here. What a view. And here is the other output. Not as delicious of looking taco, and definitely not as nice of a view. So I don't like this output as much as I did the first one, much more realistic. Now, if I wanted to save this image, I could hard it right here. That will add it to my attachments, or I could download it straight away. If I wanted to favorite this output, I could do that as well, just clicking on the little star icon. That's going to add it to my favorite messages. Now, there's actually 2 different types of favorites inside of Straico. We've got our favorite chats, which are going to live right over here. I can go ahead and choose the little star, and I can see my favorites show up here, which are currently just the tacos. But I can also have favorite templates. So if I know I want to generate a lot of images using this template, which was the generate image using DALL-E template, I can actually make that template one of my favorites. So for that, I'll just go back over to templates, find the DALL-E template, and if I click on it, there's a little star icon here, and that will add it to my favorites, the favorites that show up down over here. I'll exit out of here, open up my favorite templates, and sure enough, right there. That way I don't have to kind of search through all of the templates here. This is it's a good transition, because another really good selling point of Straico is the fact that there are so many different templates available. If you want to have an SEO expert on your team, well, here you go. You've got about 7 or 8 different templates to use as prompts. Now, what's cool about these templates is if I open up one of them, how about SEO keyword research? The way that they are set up is it's not just a prompt that you're, just pasting in. It actually has variables. So it's asking you questions. So like, what language are you working in? English. What is the main topic? Well, let's say it is baseball. And I want to find 10 popular keywords, 25 long tail keywords, and 50 LSI. And you can fill out any of these other variables that you want. Then go ahead and hit insert. And it's actually going to, it warns me that I've got some missing fields. And it's actually going to end up putting it inside of the prompt with those variables inserted. So it's really, really a handy way to utilize templates. A pretty unique situation, I believe. I haven't seen other tools that do it exactly like this, and I find it to be fairly interesting. Now, I'd want to get rid of any of these ones here that I didn't add a variable to, but that's easy enough. Just select and delete, and then you could go ahead and run this. Now, you might notice over here that my current models is not what I set up at the beginning of the video, and that's because I switched over to DALL-E. But even if I start a brand new chat, it goes back to Claude and GPT 3.5. That's annoying. How do we fix that? No problem. Just go up to your account settings. So click your user avatar, go to user settings, click on your preferences, and then right down here, you can go ahead and personalize your AI interactions. It's got the default set up to be Claude 3 as well as GPT 3.5. But come on, we don't want to use those models. We can definitely choose something else as our default. All right, I've changed mine to be Claude 3.5 Sonnet. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now whenever I create a new chat, it's always going to go back to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. I'll show you. Let's change our options here. I'll turn off Sonnet and hit new chat. Boom, it's right back to my defaults. Now, another very popular feature of Straico is the fact that they've got an API. This means you can connect up your app or your automation platform right into Straico and utilize your credits via the API system. So this means you could use a tool like Zapier or similar and then use an API connection into Straico to do automation at the same time you're doing AI generation. Very, very cool stuff. They do have really good documentation for their API as well. Definitely check this out if you're interested in connecting up to another application. One such use case of the API is the Straico Assistant Chrome extension, which actually asks for your API key to hook into your Straico account so that you can use it throughout the internet. Now, to be clear, Straico Assistant is not created by Straico. It's a Chrome extension made by a user that wanted to take Straico around the web with them. Maybe someday Straico will add their own Chrome extension, but for now, we've got a nice third-party one that's totally free. So there we go. That is Straico. Now, this is our second AI chatbot this week as we go through the Black Friday daily deals. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to be asking, Straico or Merlin, which one is better? Which one should I get? And I would say they're pretty different, so you're going to have to make up your own mind on this. With Straico, you can generate prompts using multiple LLMs at the exact same time. With Merlin, you get things like projects and crafts. They're a version of artifacts. So there are definitely a lot of strengths and weaknesses to each one. We've got the text to voice in Straico, and there's nothing like that in Merlin, but I think maybe their image generation is just a little bit better quality. Overall, I think they're both fairly affordable, and so if you're concerned, in fact, this was something that came up several times in the comments of the Merlin video, what if I run out of credits? What should I do? Well, maybe you grab both of these and then you've got a lot of credits to work through. Now, I'm going to give you my score for Straico in just a moment, but I do want to take one more opportunity to thank AppSumo for sponsoring today's video. I highly recommend you check out AppSumo's Black Friday sales. They've got literally everything in the store 10% off right now. There is never a better time all year round to shop AppSumo than right now. So check my link in the description and fill up your cart this Black Friday. All right, onward to the Straico score. I'm going to give this one a 7.9. If we are comparing it directly to Merlin, I think Merlin might out-edge it just a little bit, but I could definitely see a use case where I would prefer Straico over Merlin. So it is really a coin flip here. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, make sure you click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up in the comments with just an emoji for the algorithm or a question if you got it. I'll be tooling around there all morning after this video goes live. I've got more coming for Black Friday, so stay tuned. We've got one other kind of new annual tradition coming right up, so that'll be posted on the channel here before you even know it. My name is Dave. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next review.